Have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
All right, if we could go to item N6, that's the Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce Monthly Economic Development Report for January 2022.
Know that we have had one project announcement for this first quarter, and that was in McGregor with Messer.
All right, if there's no questions, or a motion to approve the chamber report for recording purposes?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
All right, we can go back up to item F, budget and budget amendments. F1's regarding the FY22 budget. Francis?
FY22 budget amendments, starting with F1A.
Is there a motion to approve F1D through F1I?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
Under item G, bids, RFPs, RFQs, G1 is authorization of recommendations. G1A regarding bid 22-004, aggregate surface treatment for delivery and pickup.
All right, what's your pleasure on items G1A?
Motion to approve the purchasing director's recommendations on the bids.
Second. We have a motion second. Any other discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right.
All right, item G1B regarding bid 22-005, asphalt emulsions for delivery and pickup.
Not what's your pleasure, court?
Move to approve the recommendation of the purchasing director.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. I'd like to go to item L1. We have Shane Turner and Fiona Bond here. This is regarding the U.S. Department of Treasury Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund American Rescue Plan Act, discussion or action regarding the eligible expenses and our funding guidelines, reporting requirements, and funding request.
So I'm Fiona Bond, Executive Director of Creative Waco, and of course this is Shane Turner, owner and operator of the Hippodrome.
All right, so we will recess until 1 o'clock tomorrow. So it's 11. All right, good morning. Let's call court to order. Today is Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. It's 9 a.m. Proof of posting, please.
The agenda was posted on Friday, February 25th, 2022 at 3:10 p.m.
Thank you. And if anyone has a public comment, they can come forward now from the audience. Yes, sir.
My name is Shannon Caraway. I'm Vice President for Business Development for a company called Solar Prime. Currently, we're trying to develop another 300 megawatt solar farm and 300 megawatt battery energy storage project here in McLennan County. And it's out north of Trading House Creek Reservoir, that area there. We're preparing to submit a proposal to this body soon for a county tax abatement for the project, and just wanted to stop by ahead of time, introduce ourselves, and tell you what we're doing.
Going to D on proclamations, resolutions. We have nothing this week. Under E. Ready? All right, good morning. Let's call court to order. Today is Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. It's 9 a.m. Proof of posting, please.
The agenda was posted on Thursday, May 25th, 2023 at 4:15 p.m.
Thank you. All right, at this time, let's pause briefly for a moment of silence, and then we'll go to the pledge. We'll have the pledge.
Please join in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thanks, Steve. All right. This time, if there's any members of the public here that won't speak to the court on business matters, please do so at this time. And Reagan, I don't believe anyone called in for any comments, correct? All right. Seeing none, we'll move forward. Number D, the acceptance of county department head staff reports and departmental reports and updates. So we'll start from the top. Kind of what we'll do this morning is we will get all these reports and go through those. We'll approve them. Feel free to ask any questions as we go along, as presenters move along. And we will
Thank you.
we'll approve the recording those minutes in public record. And then after that, we will have a couple of agenda items brought to us. Person agent Ken Bass will have a couple on here, and John Carter, IT director, will have, and then we'll have a report from our attorneys, outside attorneys, Steve Henniger and Tom Brandt, at around 10 o'clock. So let's start with the department head reports, and was Mr. Coker going to be online?
I'm here, Your Honor.
Oh, okay, good. Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. How's everyone doing today?
Oh, doing
Great,
well,
Tom.
doing well. So we have your report here. Is there any specific thing you want to point out, or anything that's maybe a little different or going as usual, or any challenges?
No, Your Honor. I mean, just a quick summation. I had a total of, during the time frame, February, March, and April, had 146 total referrals. 153 juveniles were on probation during that time frame, 27 on deferred prosecution, 166 on conditions of release. For detention, we began February with 24 juveniles in our detention facility. We placed an additional 123 during that time frame. Also during that time frame, we released 124 juveniles, so that gives us an average daily population of 23 and an average length of stay of 23. We averaged during that time frame an average amount of 11 kids in our detention facility that were prescribed some sort of psychotropic medication. There are currently 98 kids that are still pending admission to TJJD across the state, and we have 4 of those back in our detention facility, so we have seen a decrease in the amount of kids that have already been committed to TJJD in our detention facility. They are starting to be admitted to TJJD slightly earlier or sooner than has been the case during most of the COVID pandemic. And we currently have 26 juveniles in our detention facility right now, 24 males and 2 females. And that's just a quick summation. And of course, I'm ready to answer any questions the Commissioners Court may have.
There was one time you were a little bit concerned about available space there. Is that concern still there, or has that been remedied?
Well, it had more to do with open positions, with the 55 JSO positions. We were concerned with the number of open positions that we had in relation to the amount of referrals, increase in detention referrals, particularly because of the wait that was we were having to wait in order to get the committed youth to TJJD. And so that is that concern, although is still there, it's not as pressing as it was a couple of months ago.
Was there anything in the legislature that's out there that would be helpful or harmful to your operation that you're aware of?
From what I understand, all the raise the age bills, which is the Commissioners Court may remember from previous legislative sessions, that's increasing the juvenile jurisdiction, the maximum range, and adding an additional year. Whereas once before, when they turn 17, if they commit a new offense, that's handled in adult court. But that basically this would allow them, if they committed an offense at 17, they would still be considered juveniles and still be in our jurisdiction. This is not a new bill. They've been trying to pass this bill in one means or another since about 2011. Looking at the numbers, of course, that would be an increase of about 25 to 30% of total referrals that we would be receiving to our department. So it would have some profound ramifications if and when that is passed. But that all those bills that were filed, it looks like that none of them made it out of their respective committee. I think I let y'all know the bill that's I think before the governor's office regarding fees for juveniles.
Right.
There's some regarding there's also one that and I forget the exact bill number, but it actually will compensate the counties, and it's retroactive from what I understand. So it would compensate the county for housing the committed youth for as long as we've been since the pandemic hit. I mean, that was an unfunded mandate passed on to the counties that we were holding on to kids that had been committed that pre-pandemic, we would take them a day or two after they were committed directly to TJJD for admission. They were back here for 100, 150, 200 days waiting for bed space. So there's that bill. I think it's been passed. I'm not sure if the governor's signed it, but that would compensate us from here on out, and from what I believe retroactively as well for those kids that we've had in here since 2020 that have been taken, back here for lengthy periods of time. And those are some of the more major bills that I've been kind of keeping tabs on.
Okay. All right, and we had written letters of support on any of those legislative items that would impact us positively or negatively. We responded. So
We appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Anyone have any questions? All right, if not, is there a motion to approve his report for recording purposes?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Pass. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners Court. Appreciate y'all.
All right, next, we'll have engineer's report from Mr. Zane Dunham. Morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone. My report is pretty standard. We've got a lot of bridges that we're working on, that were being designed. A couple of bridges have been contracted. Well, we've received a bid on them, so we'll be getting under contract soon to repair and or replace those bridges. And we've got, did a little bit of work on Tom Ledbetter Road there was a big dust problem out there, and so we were able to put some coal mix on part of it. And I spoke with the residents out there, and they were very appreciative of it, but they want the rest of the road to be covered. So we'll see how the legislature, whether or not they raise our amount of money that we can use without having to go for an actual bid. That would help out if they did raise that amount. The aerial imagery has been collected, and they're currently fine-tuning it and taking out some of the shadows and issues with the imagery that they took. So we should be getting that in the next month or two. And we've been monitoring the IIJA infrastructure grant funding bills and opportunities at the federal level. And we've passed that along whenever we've gotten new information. And we've also been monitoring the House and Senate bills as it pertains to subdivision regulation of the unincorporated areas within the county. And then lastly,
Are those primarily pertaining to floodplain or?
it's regulation of subdividing land. So if there's, somebody has, let's say, 100 acres and they want to split off, whether it be 50 acres, 10 acres, 1 acre, whether it be they want to sell that
Right.
acreage to somebody or give it to their kids so they can build a house, we regulate that.
Okay. And then would that also overlay like septic tank?
That has to do with it as well, yes, sir,
Yeah.
septic systems.
Yeah,
Mhm.
systems, yeah, okay.
And then the only last thing I'd have to say is that I've received one application from somebody that just got their engineering license during this time period. But other than that one application, I've not received any other applications for the assistant county engineer position. We're going on 8 months now, so
Yeah.
I'm spinning my wheels trying to keep up.
Yeah. I've got a couple of questions. Anyone, go ahead if you have one.
A couple real quick, Zane. Where are you on number 12 on the director items? Has that person been hired?
On number 12,
Hire a part-time clerk?
yes, sir, hired a part-time clerk because I had a person out on FMLA.
Okay, so you have been able to do that then?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
good,
sir. That was,
good.
hiring a clerical position happened fairly quick.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
And just for my own benefit, under the engineer sales report, give me an example of violation notices issued. What does that entail when you,
So by law, if somebody builds a house, they're required to notify my office or the county if they're building a house
in the county?
in the county, in unincorporated areas.
Right.
And so if they do not give us notice, then we have, by state law, we can go after them because they're, could be building an unsafe house that they later sell to an unsuspecting public.
Right.
So it's where they're required to give us notice, so that then, not only are they required to give us notice, they're required to inspect the construction of that house and have passing inspections for the slab, for the framing, for the mechanicals, the AC, plumbing, all that. And then we're supposed to receive certifications from third-party inspectors, and then we review those and make sure they've all passed. And we've had some that, because the law just changed. Used to, they had to have it inspected, they didn't have to have it passed. But in the last couple of years, they passed the law, so now those inspections have to pass. And so we go after them if they don't notify us or if they don't pass.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Other questions? Question I've got has to do, I guess, it's kind of a general thing, but I'm thinking Chapel Hill Road, as example. Big project fixing to start. It's gonna be significant.
Yes.
It's gonna take a while. It's gonna be really good when it's done. I mean, it's gonna really make that place safe and all that. Everybody wants improvement, but nobody wants to go through the time and detours around everything. And so, is there do we ever go out on the website and post a status of what we're doing on?
So we do have the project posted on our website.
Okay.
And the status has not changed for a long time because we've been in the position of either designing the project or trying to acquire right-of-way, the necessary right-of-way to widen the road and move the utilities further out. And currently, the status currently is that we're waiting on one last utility to be relocated.
Okay.
We've got all the right-of-way purchased, we just need that utility to relocate.
And then the other discussions around that is rerouting, as you know.
Right.
And concern of the neighborhood over there to go down Far Miller Road or those kind of things. And I was thinking, if we address those somewhere in the website, because I get calls on it, and,
Once we have the final, all the utilities relocated and we're ready to advertise the project for construction, we will start to update the website. And once we award the contract to the best, lowest and best bidder, we'll have a public meeting with that contract and explain to all the residents that live nearby what they can expect, what kind of timelines, what is all going to happen to the roadway. This is going to be a joint project with the city of Waco because they're putting in their water line and sewer lines beneath the road. Then we're replacing we're replacing the roadway with a better, stronger, wider road. And then once we do all that, then most of the road will fall under Waco's jurisdiction because they've annexed a lot of that
right,
land.
right, okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then on the imagery, there's a way to overlay where the floodplain is, and it'll be a better image of
That's correct. So
maps, and then you'll be able to see more specifically where a line may go.
that's correct, yeah. We currently have that capability where we overlay the floodplain, 100-year floodplain on top of aerial imagery.
Right,
However, that aerial imagery is 3 years old now. It was taken in, I think, either 2019 or 2020. I think 2020. You know, they do it when the leaves are off the tree, so it's
Right.
probably December 2019, January 2020, that type of deal. But it's 3 years old, and Google pretty much updates their maps every year. So we're just trying to catch up, and then, of course, we own that imagery, and we can do with it what we want to.
right, okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. If there's no questions, is there a motion to accept this report for recording purposes?
So moved. Oh, second.
Have a motion second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, passed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
All right, next, we will go to maintenance of equipment, monthly activity report runs from January through April, and call on Michael Graham. Good morning. That doesn't look like Michael.
I'll be covering that today, Judge.
Okay. Captain Nixon will be covered.
All right. Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Our report is, again, pretty standard for the quarterly report. Jail repairs this quarter were at 23 work orders, 88 labor hours. Radio repairs, 8 work orders, 5 labor hours. Now, we do have additional radios to be repaired. They're waiting, but we've got a back order on parts. Parts seem to be hard to come by these days. So we're waiting on that. Then equipment install, removal, and repair, we had 16 work orders and 92.5 labor hours. I also want to make mention that John Strunk spends most of his days at the tower sites, working there with the tower projects. So that leaves Dustin Lloyd to do probably 75% of the jail and radio repair and equipment install and repair. So that kind of keeps him pretty tied up and pretty busy.
Yes, sir.
Moving over to our sign shop, January we did 58 signs. There's a typo there in our report, but 58 signs, total of 7 sign orders for 4 departments. February, 154 signs, 7 sign orders again for 5 departments. And March, 34 signs, 4 sign orders for 3 departments. And then April, 70 signs on 8 sign orders for 4 departments. Vehicle maintenance. January, we serviced for 7 county departments. We had 72 work orders, 6 state inspections with a total of 9,600, 9,630 in outside labor costs. February, we covered work orders over 7 county departments, 115 work orders, 23 state inspections, and 19,339.19 in outside labor costs. March, 7 county departments, 107 work orders, 30 state inspections, 12,079.72 in outside labor costs. And April, 6 county departments, 121 work orders, 13 state inspections for a total of 13,315.75 in outside labor costs. And I think a month or so ago, we kind of talked about those outside labor costs. A lot of those are some big repairs, transmissions and such like that. Also keep in mind that outside labor cost includes body repairs for any accidents or anything that's happened within the county. So that kind of brings that up. a little. Just for make y'all aware, and it's not covered in the cost here, but during our recent hailstorms, we've had 12 sheriff's office units impacted with hail damage. Some were very significant, and still working on final numbers on estimates because all the body shops are backed up to give estimates right now. Also, we had 4 vehicles at adult probation that received damage. Most of them with less severe units, but windshields and some hail damage as well. Upcoming projects that we're starting on with at MOE would be install new CCTV cameras at adult probation. This will include all new cameras and a new DVR system. And then starting to install new computer docks on the sheriff's office patrol vehicles that will accommodate the new in-car computers that IT will be rolling out soon. Also in MOE, we recently were able to hire a part-time clerk to fill our vacant position. That's going to help us out a lot. So, do you have any questions, Judge or Commissioners?
All right, any questions?
Like the hail damage, are those insured? Are they
Yes, sir. There will be. We cover the first 2,500 on them. That's our deductible, and then above that will be insurance.
Yeah, we've filed those attack.
File on them?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You, of course.
Yes, sir.
And I haven't really delved into the layers of that new vehicle inspection bill, but I was wondering, is that going to impact like our commercial vehicles, our county vehicles?
We haven't, that hasn't hit us yet, so I'm not sure on that yet. I will find out for you.
Okay, you're going to keep us updated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I know that's going to affect not only the vehicles that you all get, but the vehicles that the road, and we're all county.
Yes.
All county vehicles. Okay, I appreciate that.
And on our rolling stock turnover, you pointed out before, Michael did, that the fact that it's been slow in getting new vehicles in here to replace old ones, that's the reason why the transmission cost
Yeah,
went up.
mileage is gone up on our fleet.
So are we getting units in?
They are starting to come in, yes, sir. They're just slower than they used to be, Judge. They used to come in, shortly after budget, and now we're waiting until later in the year to get them. That was the case this year, and we're waiting to see what it's going to look like in this next coming year.
Okay. All right. Mr. Jones, do you have any questions?
Yep, I'm good.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve this report for recording purposes?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed. Thank you, sir. All right, next we'll go to County Veteran Service Officer Monthly Activity Report from January through March 23. Mr. Hernandez, good morning.
Good morning. Aside from the normal process of the report, I think our current trend right now is placement, transportation. I mean, it just kind of raises its head every now and then. And right now, we got aging veteran population that we're trying to get signed up with the VA because they've never signed up. There's about 60% of veterans who are not signed up with VA services, and they usually don't come forward until they're in a position where they really need it. And at that point, we still have to go through the process, and it can be somewhat challenging. That's kind of what we're dealing with right now on a trend level. The other, of course, is transportation. We do have some veterans as well as surviving spouses that are having trouble getting services. And so we're working with the Military Veterans Peer Network to try to help and assist that at the community level. And then I guess group homes, we're the reentry of veterans that are coming back. We're also getting back in the swing of that. Whereas before at COVID, we really weren't doing much of that, but we're trying to get them placed again as they coming out of incarceration and get their benefits back in place. So that's kind of been a trend that we're dealing with right now. Mm-hmm. And then to break the monotony, of course, we had the Memorial Day service yesterday where we were able to, we fed somewhere around 130 people, I believe.
Great.
So it was good. And then, of course, we have our breakfast every Thursday. So we kind of break the monotony of it all. And so,
It was a very nice evening.
yes, I wanted to say, want to give kudos Commissioner Miller. I really
Yes.
appreciate her showing up, and she had gave us a presentation. So
Good.
we were glad that that was good. And Congressman Sessions was there, so it was a pretty good little turnout.
Yeah, appreciate you representing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
And
I think,
I did mention that they needed to applaud the Commissioners Court for creating the Veterans Service Office, and that we were located in one stop, available for anything that veterans needed. And so I told them my peers on the court.
Thank you.
yeah, it's really been a good, successful endeavor with the Behavioral Health Network. We really have had a pretty good success, good run, 12 years, 13 years of the Veterans One Stop.
Been that long? Wow.
Yes, sir.
Good.
We started in 2012.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions for Steve? All right, thank you for your report. Is there a
Alrighty.
motion
Yes,
to
sir.
approve this report for recording purposes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Thank you, Steve.
Yes, sir.
All right, I think next is purchasing, so we'd have Mr. Tim Bass.
Morning.
Morning.
This time of year is generally very busy for the purchasing department. As you can see, we've run through about 11 bids, some of them rather large size bids this past few months. 11 that we've completed, 2 that we will complete either this week or next week. Then we have 7 that we brought for renewal. Worked on 6 contracts. And then I participated in a number of the ongoing projects that we've got. The Paul Tyson project, I brought an invoice from AT&T for an added amount to their charges. On the tower projects, I continue to sit in on the conference calls with Motorola. We've had Hensel Electric out working on Road and Bridge 4. We've finally completed the UPSs that were needed batteries at Road and Bridge 4 and the Woodway Tower. I do still need batteries and some power modules for another UPS that we're going to use at Road and Bridge 3. I bought some parts for John for the Woodway Tower to complete our antenna installation when it's up. We still struggle with obtaining parts for the UPSs. I mean, that was what the problem was all along. Brought on a 415 Columbus, brought to the court the agreement for Encore to relocate the power poles. Again, I continue to set in on meetings with Brinkley Sargent. Set in on space group meetings, so forth, so forth. I did bring to the court an updated version of the county purchasing policy, which I was hoping to bring another update to that if they passed the 100,000 bid limit on, but I think it's pretty much on hold. It might be a while longer before we can get that accomplished.
All gonna be over pretty quick.
Yes,
Over
that's what
yesterday.
I'm saying. It's in the,
That was the last day?
Yeah.
it's in the committee.
Yeah, it died in committee. It never got out of committee.
Right.
But, you know, a bill like that might take a session or two
to get it done.
to
Yes,
get
sir.
done, maybe 3. So.
I did finally hire a buyer for my open buyer position, James Nichols. I got him out of maintenance. He seems to be working very well in the department, trying to assimilate in. He's got a lot to learn. Let me see.
That sounds like constructive criticism.
Yeah.
I do have a major bit, even though I'm working on jail medical, we're going to have the food service also that we're going to be working on. As a matter of fact, we're working on that proposal right now that I need to have done before the end of this budget year. I'll be talking to the judges, making sure they're all good with our electronic monitoring contract. And of course, Zane has got many projects working in various parts and pieces. A lot of bids to be done, but like I said, we even have all the bid documents pretty much done, but we need to wait until all the property's acquired. So that's pretty much what all I've got going on.
Okay. Well, you're exactly right. Your boat is loaded with all the bridge projects, and then with the application of ARPA money at the downtown jail conversion, as well as getting into the HVAC, the roofing.
Yes.
All those things are out in front of us that we need to be involved in. And I forgot to mention it when Zane was in here, but I'll reiterate, I've said it before, that the Space Planning Committee has really been helpful in all this, especially dealing with contract with the engineering firm, the architectural firm, and trying to work out the scope of what that project needs to look like. And, you know, Ken in purchasing and engineering, Zane, maintenance of buildings, TJ, Jackson, and audit with Francis to be sure we know where we're getting the money. And then, of course, County Administrator Dustin Chapman to kind of keep the minutes and keep moving forward. And it's been a very great addition to us, how we plan those kind of things. Because it's just hard for the court to really know the intricate details where someone in purchasing or engineering specifically, and TJ knows exactly how those things work, and going to have to deal with this place after we get it built too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I didn't even bring up the roof damage that we got in the hailstorm.
Yeah.
Which it's TJ's report to me, but we've had TAC here studying the roofs and sharing with us what we need to do there. And as the judge mentioned, we have the AC in the jail that we're probably going to try to attach to the ARPA money. So there's just a whole lot of moving parts and pieces that we'll be dealing with over the next year or so.
yeah. All right, are there any questions for Ken? If not, is there a motion to approve Ken's report for recording purposes?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Thank you. All right, next we have maintenance of buildings quarterly activity report. Call on TJ Jackson. Morning.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So you have before you our typical report that we usually put out every quarter. A few exciting projects going on, like Ken mentioned. This report won't cover it, but the next report I'll have something associated with the hail damage that we did receive on a couple of roofs here. So it's been some exciting times around the office with roofing companies and our insurance guys and all that great business going on. But you'll see kind of an uptick in work orders this past quarter. That's kind of to be expected with the summer months coming on. Nothing too surprising for us. going down a little bit further, you'll see we do have 2 Tech 2 positions open. We were able to move individual into a senior tech position that was created a couple of openings below them. So that's exciting times for us. We'll get to utilize our career ladder program and get 2 guys into school this summer to really backfill those positions around August. So we're excited about that and looking forward to it. Other than that, it's just the typical stuff. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Any questions?
Specifically, which buildings are we talking about? On that?
For the hail damage?
Yeah.
So far, what we've got is MHMR out off of Clifton. We've got the records building, the maintenance building. The courthouse did receive some stuff, but it's just cosmetic. There's nothing that's jeopardizing the infrastructure itself. And then a couple of small areas around that won't be associated with the claim. So it's going to be pretty good size. Juvenile was one of the main ones as well. And of course, it's got skylights on top of it, so they took the brunt of the damage. But it'll be a good size claim.
Yep. All right, any other questions?
Our building on Washington, it was move-in ready.
1211 Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Where are we right now, TJ, on it being, I know we were waiting on parts to come in or equipment to come in, but.
Yeah, so everything is finalized up as far as the infrastructure and the IT over at the building itself. And you'll see probably next court, we're going to have on the agenda a little discussion item about potential of moving a couple of departments over there to utilize the space. Just some that are kind of busting at the seams and need the relief. But that's coming up very soon, Commissioner.
Okay. Were we able to get access off the back of that property for egress, ingress? I know
we can. Yes, sir. The alleyway itself, there's an electric gate that's back there, and we determined that the board was fried on the gate last week, so we will be working on that for future use. But yes, we were able to get the alleyway cleaned up, and it can be utilized.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, that building's gonna be a real asset to us.
Right.
And, besides the building, the immediate building, there's also that outbuilding out back is big and so it can be used for a lot of different things. Any other questions anyone would have for TJ? If not, is there a motion to approve his report for recording purposes?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Judge Bain come in just right.
That's perfect, wasn't it?
All right. So, next report will be under item D7, pretrial services monthly activity, report, featuring, Judge Bain.
Thank you. There's something in addition to that I wanted to bring up with the Commissioners Court today. You probably all remember Senate Bill 6 from last legislative session. One of the things that it instituted was the PSRS, a public safety report system that we have to do now that pulls all the criminal histories and that a magistrate has to review before setting bail. So our county, and from what I understand, like many other counties in Texas, the sheriff's office, the jail, has been entering the names into the PSR, pulling the criminal history, which all made sense since they were booking the people in, had all the information for them to go ahead and do that. So what would normally happen is the night shift at the jail would have most all of that entered by the time I start in the morning, unless they added 1 or 2 people, that came in late or something like that. And so then I was able to start reviewing all the criminal histories before, and then they would also load all the affidavits and everything that I'd have to review. And that's the way it's been since we started this. Excuse me. Well, then on Wednesday, the 17th, Major Whitlock and 2 of or staff members, came into my office and said, effective immediately, they were not going to enter the PSR information anymore. And so their reasoning, they said, was that it has to do with the FBI or something, that when they enter it in PSR, it does not state who they're pulling the information for, which is required. And then because of that, they get dinged on the report or something like that. They have an audit, FBI audit coming up in June, and so effective immediately, so they wouldn't get any more of these dings. They were going to quit entering any of this information. And I said, well, what are we going to do about this weekend? And basically they said,
Yon.
yeah. All right. So we started, so my staff, of course, is having to go in on the weekends and do this right now until we maybe figure something else out. And so they're taking turns going in on the weekend. We had one of the staff members from Judge Richardson's court come in last Thursday and Friday so we could, so Crystal could get her trained on how to properly pull this information, enter it into the PSR for when Judge Richardson, his one day a month that he goes out there. Because before that, the two ladies in my office were really the only people besides the sheriff's office that knew how to do this and could do this. So kind of put us in a little bind at the moment. But we're working through it, and we're trying to, we'll try to figure out what we can do about this. Of course, I'm concerned about my two ladies having to get comp time, because as you probably are aware, it's difficult sometimes to use comp time. Their days are pretty busy. I would certainly much prefer, and they would, if they could get paid overtime instead of comp time. And I would, would ask the Commissioner's Court to consider that. I don't like them having to come in on the weekends because, that makes for a 12-day work week when you have to come in Saturday and Sunday. It's not all day. I mean, hopefully, like the first weekend, it took Crystal 2.5 to 3 hours, something like that, to get it entered and all, because there was 30-something people with 40-something charges. It was a pretty good number of people. Yesterday, since it was a holiday, I had to have one of them come in with me and get that done. And fortunately, there wasn't that many. I don't remember, 15 or 16 people, and she was able to get it done in an hour or so. Though, like I said, this just got sprung on us, and we're working through it. We don't know exactly how we're going to continue at this point, but I just want to make you all aware of that. And like I said, if they're having to come in, I sure would rather them get paid time and a half or whatever than get comp time.
Okay, well, we need to have a visit.
That's what we had called, but since the Commissioner's Court was meeting before we could get a visit in, I thought I'd go ahead and bring it up now.
Yeah, thank you. All right, anything else on your report?
No, sir, that's it.
So how's the weekend magistration done with the part-time magistrates that we put in?
That's working really well. It's going really well, so I'm pleased with that, with individuals having to only do that one weekend a month.
Right.
Unless I'm gone or something. I was at a judicial conference, and that was very helpful because one of the three could fill in, because a lot of times it's difficult for Judge Richardson to fill in during the week because he's got his court and his stuff going on. So me having these part-time magistrates is really, really nice.
Good, good.
I think, in visiting with one of the part-time magistrates, I think I won't say they're enjoying it or relishing it, but they seem to really like the setup and what's going on, and the opportunity to do that.
Yes, I get that information from them too, that they really feel like they're doing something helpful and.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And they'll do whatever it takes.
Okay, if there's no other questions for Judge Bain, I'll entertain a motion to approve this report for recording purposes.
So moved.
We have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? Pass. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for the coffee.
You're very welcome.
All right. All right, next, also I might note that in that report was an indigent defense report in there.
Right.
By Tammy Parsons too, so look that over. If you have any questions, feel free to call Judge Bain or Tammy about those. Going to item D8, Health Services Monthly Activity Reports from January through May of 23. Call on Heather. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
We have a pretty standard report. I'll just kind of point out a couple of highlights and then be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Our active client total is remaining above 350, which if you look at kind of the historical graph, the active CIHCP client graph, that bar chart, you'll see that, I've listed 6 years worth of data just to kind of show that we're historically high over the course of 6 years, 2 quarters in a row now. And so right now we're at 370, which of course, impacts the budget. As far as our POPR programs going, I don't think that we're necessarily seeing an increase in referrals or applications necessarily. Just the cost of doing business is starting to catch up with us on the budget side of things. We've kind of kept that budget the same year after year, and we've been able to, maintain those expenditures through the collection of reimbursements. But even with the collection of reimbursements, just because the cost of business is going up, we'll probably end up looking at doing a budget amendment for that in the next quarter. But other than that, we're staying busy. Things are going well. I want to say a special thank you to Steve and his folks for going out and putting flags at Restland this weekend. I went out over the weekend and took some pictures. It was beautiful. Everything just looked so nice out there. And so I just wanted to give him a special thank you for taking the time to do that for our program and for the folks that are the veterans that are buried out there.
All right, thank you.
Bet.
Any questions? One thing I noticed in your reports, and wanted to extend my appreciation, is you serving on several organizations that are community-based organizations that work on a lot of issues, and the county needs to be a part of that, and we appreciate you representing the county in those endeavors. And I would encourage department heads that there's life outside of coming to work every day here, that we ever live in a community, and any way they can participate and help out as a volunteer. We appreciate it very much. If there's no other questions for Heather, I would entertain a motion to accept this report for recording purposes.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, this would be a information technology report from Mr. John Carter. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Morning, John.
How are you? I'll try to be short and sweet, at least shorter and sweeter than you're used to. I'll go over the highlights very quickly. McLennan County.gov, that is operational now. We can receive email and folks can type in that to get to our website. Because we want to run out all the paper and because we want to have that all marketed first, We won't be sending out as that yet. We will, we're looking at probably January 1st for that. We're having a meeting tomorrow, I believe, to do the kickoff for that, for the media campaign.
Okay, good.
We have hired our office coordinator. That's a good one. We still do have 3 open positions, but we're starting to get there. We have another person who has accepted one of the positions that will be starting in August, the security analyst. And a couple of highlights the team achieved. The Texas Cybersecurity Framework, I've already brought that up, I believe, at court. We exceeded our goal of 3.0 and got a 3.04. And as you can see, I put in there FY22 and 21 for comparison. We've steadily increased each year on that score. And what that score is indicating is that we're becoming more and more secure in the cybersecurity realm.
Right.
We're getting safer and safer.
Good. That's good.
Hopefully. And then we also exceeded our website accessibility score with AudioEye, which is a application we use with our website. It allows for ADA compliance and other issues with folks so they can, hear the website, get the type and larger and those sort of things. Beyond that, the tickets and all the graphs you see there in the report, I won't go over those in excruciating detail. Just to say that we're seeing pretty average ticket volume. There's nothing that really stands out except the deployments this year. As you know, there were several more deployments. So that is weighing heavily on our desktop support team, but they're handling it like a champ. They're getting them done, getting them rolled out, even with the 2 vacancies. There's nothing really of note for myself beyond that. We did some selected projects you'll see in there. The Manage Engine implementation is probably our most widespread. That was approved by court recently in the last 2 months or so. We have most of it stood up. We're still in the middle of that implementation. That allows us to get a better vision on our systems, better real-time data. And ideally, we'll start moving from a little more reactive stance to a little more proactive stance. So we're excited about that in here, and our folks in the back room are finally getting a better handle on the analytics for our systems. Beyond that, I would take any questions.
All right, any questions for John?
Hey, John, quickly, and it may deal with this one because I noticed there's an agenda item later on regarding telephone systems, but do we have an inordinate amount of time that we have systems go down that we have to work back with the vendors, or does that seem pretty normal? Or I notice it comes across to us, this system's not working or something's down, long distance, so-and-so, or phones aren't working here, something like that. Is that indicative of a problem, or is that just pretty much normal for something our size?
Yeah, I would say, no one ever likes to be down, but I would say, to me, I'd say fairly normal. So a few of those outages that you're talking about with the phones and being out, that's typically, I believe the last one was due to Verizon, Grande Astound having an issue with one of their routers, which also took out Verizon. We have had a few issues with AT&T long distance, I believe, just recently last week. But to my mind, it's not been excessive so far, and it has been different vendors. So it's not just one vendor who's been out here and there. I know it all deals with phones, but they are different vendors having the issues.
Okay, all right.
But that is something we keep a pretty good eye on. If we do start to see, excessive outages with vendors, for instance, the one with Grande Astound, which also took out Verizon, that affected our election poll books only from the perspective of them being able to check in and check voters at the polls. So we made sure that we doubled up and we got AT&T Wi-Fi, MiFi devices so that we could make sure we had communication. So what we're doing in that regard is just starting to get a little redundancy built into the system by getting 2 vendors sometimes when we need them. that sort of thing.
Okay, all right. Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions for John? All right, if not, is there a motion to approve this report for recording purposes?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right, under
Thank you,
D1.
sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Under D1, mental health, court services, reports there. Everything's kind of running as usual. The two things that we're working on is under, in that first line of charts there, the application for emergency detention orders and mental health warrants issued. Many times these happen, or sometimes like a magistrate has set a bond or those things for people that come in on the weekend. We also have to find magistrates or judges to sign those emergency detention orders and that need backups on them for the weekend. It's 24/7. And so we're working on trying to broaden that area that the hospitals don't have to wait, or law enforcement does not have to wait to get that signed off by a judge. So that's one thing that we're trying to improve on. But other than that, are there any questions regarding that report?
I don't have any questions, but I did want to make a comment. I believe it's Mary that's over that department. One of the things I want to say about her department, because a lot of people that interface with this system are really kind of lost as far as the process. And so I did receive a call from a gentleman that had it was a serious issue, personal issue. And I just wanted to publicly say during her reporting that she did an excellent job of just navigating him through that process.
Right.
And he did end up with a positive resolution.
Right.
And I think sometimes we see the numbers, but they may not reflect the hours that she puts in to these issues. And you can have one issue, because I know one time we spent several weeks just on one family. So you can spend a lot of time on these individual issues. And she was really a help to him and to his family.
Good. Thank you, and we will, I'll make sure she knows that. Thank you very much. And mental health issues are a lot more complex than a lot of people have, where there may be violations of law, but then you have to take a lot of things in consideration. And then how to diffuse the situation, get people safe, including the person that's involved in it. So, all right, if there's no other questions or a motion to approve that report for recording purposes.
So moved.
Second. Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Under D1 is the Texas A&M Agriculture Extension Report. I think it's in the package, but I don't see it here. But if you do review that and you have any questions, we will get Dr. McClellan to address those. So.
I did have one thing, just another comment. I wanted to thank Donald Helms and Shane. My understanding is they are going to have a Prairie View A&M Ag Extension agent. Of course, it'll be fully funded from the college, but they are going to have space for it. And they are also adding a 4-H agent. So they're doing some really great work, and I just wanted to thank him for reaching out here in the community and kind of responding since he was able to.
Right, and all across where they're trying to connect with the youth in the 4-H program, and also agriculture producers in the production side. Anytime commissioners or myself can help, they really appreciate that very much. We have people assigned to duty, and we need to help them make sure they get in front of these kids and agricultural producers.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. If There's no other questions or motion to approve that for recording purposes.
So moved.
Second.
I have motion and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right, next going into the Human Resources Monthly Activity Report from January through April. Call on Anna.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Before I get started, I just wanted to let the court know that I did reformat the activity report that I provide to the court in an attempt to provide an annual comparison, an ongoing annual comparison, a lot of the data points that we provided to the court. For an organization as large as we are, I felt like that was a more helpful format to be able to actually deliver recommendations to the court.
Thank you.
And in addition to that reformatting, there's also an additional data point that I'd like to continue to provide to the court, and that's ongoing tracking of pay time off issued to employees and what that looks like historically. Even though I know pay time off or PTO is new, I've included what was previously sick and vacation tracking within the report. And so I just want to highlight that change. Just quick highlights of what the report includes. There is we were able to identify here in our calendar year-to-date numbers that there is an improvement in retention and turnover so far for this calendar year. We're losing less people, which is great and what we want to see. Where we still have work cut out for us is in our recruitment and getting new hires on board. We have a slight improvement in new hires for calendar year-to-date. We'll continue to work on improving that. Some projects to highlight. We are currently in the middle of wrapping up the compensation review for some of the requests that have come through, and also compiling data for our cost of living adjustment recommendation. So we're in the middle of that right now. Another project that will likely, with the help of the IT department, we're hoping to fast track or speed up the timeline that we had originally set out. And that's related to recruitment, which is why it's so pressing. So we just last week, without notice, we realized our applicant tracking system, which is through Civic HR, is no longer linked to Indeed, which is our most prominent form of career advertisement or vacancy postings. And so that's a huge deal. And so we kind of scrambled last week to try to patch that, fix that, and our team here in HR was able to do that. So we are currently advertising on Indeed, which is the biggest job board, the most popular job board for applicants. And so what's currently temporarily fixed, there's a lot of manual work tied to that. We had to change its settings with Indeed to ensure that applicants would be able to click a link and be directed to our career portal. And so that has been fixed, but that's what we spent last week doing. And it was late last week, which is why it's not included in this activity report. But I did want to notify the court that that happened. And because of that, there's no fix from Civic HR, our current applicant tracking system currently for that link, which means we'll have to continue with manual postings, which is why we will probably or likely fast track our search and implementation of a new applicant tracking system, because that piece, that component of our system was critical to facilitate the recruitment of new applicants. I think those are the major points I wanted to make, and I can take any questions from the court now.
The increase last year on workers' comp claims, is that COVID related?
For last year,
It was quite a bit higher and it's dropping back down this year.
so we actually have more this current calendar year to date, as far as the number of workers' comp injuries go. What has dipped is the average cost incurred. So we might have more injuries, but they seem to be less severe related to the cost of each claim. And so what we're doing, and it's our biannual scheduling. Every other year we have safety training, and that we're coordinating that. That's in the works of issuing safety training related to slips and falls, hand safety, things like that. So we'll be seeing that coming up in the next few months.
Okay. All right. I did, in fact, I had asked Reagan to print off the newsletter just to have it, and mainly remind me to thank y'all for putting this very good news letter together, and it's both informative and a little entertaining too, and really good. And then also the Expo 2023 notice out there, I think that has a lot of positive benefits, and so I wanted to say thank you for putting that together.
You're welcome. I'll share that with our benefits team. They'll be excited to hear that, and it's one of our goals is try to maintain connectivity between employees, so that again, that's just striving for that retention and knowing that they're part of a larger organization.
Yeah.
Is there any way though on the crossword puzzle, like after so long or length of time, we could get the answers?
For the crossword?
Call me anytime.
Have y'all looked at the question?
No.
I'll have Stacy send that over to you, Commissioner.
I did get Alico. I got Alico.
She tries to throw in something different every newsletter to keep the attention.
She needs to read the audience, and I'd say 5th grade level might be about the top.
What was that game show? Are you smarter than a 6th grader?
Yeah, that's right.
But I did have one question, if you were.
Please.
Okay, on the recruitment and the advertisement used, and I say this as a baby boomer, because I think all of the avenues that you have listed, I think it speaks to a young market, which is who we want to, interface with. What is your thinking on including, though, some more traditional venues? What I notice is that, like, the Waco Trib is not down here, and maybe not for every position, but for instance, like when the SO is needing several positions filled, maybe traditional venues that maybe an older applicant is more prone to interface with. Now, I do see Texas Workforce Commission, and I think that's going out to everyone, and Facebook too, because I know that runs the gambit with generations. But there are someone here even that I'm looking at, and I know I may have heard of them, but I don't go to them. And so perhaps looking at more traditional venues, but I want your thinking on it, because this is your area of expertise. Even looking at if we're trying to make sure that we're hitting our minority markets, maybe from time to time, an ad in the Anchor News. I know the Hispanic Leaders Network goes out to a broad array of the population, maybe our minority chambers, and with them, just sending them an email, maybe of the positions that are open. And I say that only to try to make sure that we're pulling in everybody, because if we kind of focus on these really good electronic venues, we may miss some people who are just going to miss these venues because they just don't interface with them regularly. But what are your thoughts on that?
I would agree with that ensuring that our audience is being considered for each of these campaigns, which is why we did move forward with Facebook. We notice other employers do advertise on Instagram and even Snapchat, which was surprising to me, but Facebook does have a more diverse population as it relates to age. So we feel like that is the way to go. As far as Anchor News, we do have a representative that we work with KWTX, who often links us with their career fair. And so we can reach out to them to be sure that we're on their network news. I think that's a good idea. And then the Texas Workforce Commission actually had recently reached out to us to do kind of an in-person career fair or applicant event. And so I think that'll be something that we pursue with them. Typically our career fairs is where we see kind of an older population or more diverse in age population. There just haven't been large events for us to sign up for. MCC was the largest event this past quarter that we attended, but we'll continue to keep our eyes peeled for more in-person events like that.
You know, Jose Palacios at Workforce, he's doing a fantastic job, because what he does that even hits my phone sometimes, he posts and sends out across social media now hiring, and he will list positions and the link where people can go to apply for those. So from the old days where they used to just have them at their location, they really are trying to get that information out. And I tell you, Indeed.com, I don't really know how to use it, but some kind of way I must have signed up for it through something. And what they do from time to time, although I'm not looking for a job, but they will send me a text and they will say, hey, Pat, we have an opening for you. And then they'll have a job listed. I guess they match your skills, or I don't know where they got mine. I don't know, but they send me jobs from time to time.
They don't know they can't afford you. You're overqualified.
So I think that is an excellent social media outlet. But like I said, I don't know how to use it. Like I tried, one time I just, for kicks, I just wanted to see, well, what do you do? And I'm sure, though, there are people in generations younger than me that just navigate that without any thought. So I think it's an excellent tool, because I do know that they're hitting your phone and saying, hey, there's a job out here that meets your skills, you should apply for it. So I do know that about Indeed.com. One last question. You didn't have your EEO stats. You have any updated stats you could send us?
I can send that over to you, Commissioner. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay, we have a few other reports, but if y'all don't mind, if you can hold those, we do have our legal report that we'll do in executive session, and we have, I think, Mr. Tom Brandt on, and let's see, I think we have, Tom and Frank Chavez on. And so I'm gonna go into executive session right now, and then we'll come back before we close out and finish up the agenda. So, yes. All right, yeah, thank you. All right, is there a motion to approve that report for recording purposes?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the HR report for recording purposes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Thank you, Reagan. All right, this time we will go into executive session under 551.071 for legal updates, and so we will do that now. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
All right, it's 10:51. Let's call court back into session. All right, Dustin, you want to pick up the agenda?
Yes, sir. And Judge, I know we need to go to item D11, County Auditor Monthly Financial Report. Francis, did you want to do this now or hold it till the end?
I'm ready, if that's okay.
Okay.
Dustin, do we need to approve the report from the attorneys for recording purposes, or is it, we don't? Okay.
No, sir.
All right, go ahead, Francis.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen.
We got the closed session sign. Should I take it down? The closed session sign is still up.
Oh, is it?
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that the one you handed out?
Yes, sir, I handed a copy out as well.
Okay.
So in your packet, there is the monthly report for the 6 months ending March 31st. You know, usually when I present on these, you know, we do these about the second month after the month end. But when I pull them for presentations, I usually just hit the highlights and the things that I think are going to be important to you. We never really go through that report, but if you ever have questions about it, let me know. It's set up in a way that meets the requirements of the local government code for our monthly reports, but it does go through each fund. It gives the running fund balance, budget to actual information, and revenue information. So, but I am going to hit highlights and give you some important information today about where we are in this current year. So, of course, the report is as of March 31st, but, you know, today we're already about 8 months into the year. So it's a great time to review and assess where we are and how we're doing this year. I think if we're all on the same page and have some bearings on where we are currently, that the decisions that you'll be making later in the summer, that current year information is going to help with those decisions. So. Just quickly before I go in, I know sometimes when I do these, I go from one fund to the other, and so I just wanted to just kind of recap the funds. It's kind of a watered down version, of course, but you know, we have the general fund, primarily ad valorem funded, our debt service fund, ad valorem funded. We have special revenue funds, so we have restricted special revenue funds. Most of those are under your control, and we talk about those at budget time. But those are specific fees and court costs that are collected and can only be spent for a certain purpose. We have many grant funds, and of course those budgets roll through the agenda at some point when the grants are accepted. Our LPPF funds, and then a whole another large amount of funds that are not court controlled. So VIT, hot check, things that statute-wise give the elected official more authority. I talk a lot about the permanent improvement funds. And so, of course, we have our tax generating permanent improvement fund, and it is collecting a portion of the M&O rate. But then we have our funds that hold bond proceeds, including the zoo bond, and then our venue project fund. And then just moving down, we have our PFC funds, and then what we have is what's called proprietary funds. So we have internal service funds being the medical, dental, and vision, the self-insured. So just wanted to kind of run through those. And all funds are either constitutional or statutory. You can't create new funds unless you're doing it for bookkeeping reasons. So just wanted to just kind of highlight some of those. So starting out, I want to focus on general fund. On this slide, that middle column, the original budget. So if you look in the adopted budget for 2023, those figures come directly from that document. That is what we were looking at when you all decided on the tax rate and the budget last summer. So you can see that we had planned to end right over 50 million. At that time, that was right under 36% of expenditures. But move over to the far right column. So you'll see that our beginning fund balance was quite a bit higher than what we thought we were going to start with. So that's because of a variety of reasons. A lot of it is that we anticipate that there's going to be more expense than there actually is. Sometimes it's timing and things aren't received in time, projects aren't complete, and so there's that difference there. Usually it's closer than that, and so we hope to get as close as possible. You can see there that estimated revenues we're looking at coming about 5.5 million more than estimated. And then expenditures, we're looking at coming at this point in time about 8.2 million under budget. And I'll go into some reasons here in a sec as to why. And then you'll see there then, right now, we're estimating to come in right below 73 million as our fund balance at September 30th, 2023. So that number.
What is that percentage?
That is 52. And so what we'll do then is we'll keep working at that number and getting the best number we can come up with. And then in July, that is our starting number. So we'll take that number, look at what you want to fund in the budget, and then what do we need to set the tax rate at. So that number will be very important moving forward.
Some of the projects that we didn't get to that caused the excess funding, I'd like to see those separate from just departments over budgeting, so we can kind of tell that, because we made an effort last year like to take out
Yes.
were budgeted positions that we knew weren't going to be filled.
Yes.
And yet we still
Mhm.
way over. So want to separate that so we can continue to work on over budgeting.
And I'll extract those that we can, next time we get together, we can.
In over budgeting, there's a reasonable level, but then we see certain areas where it doesn't seem to be reasonable. So
Yes.
we need to concentrate on that.
And so then to dig into those numbers a little more, I've highlighted some of the main revenue categories. So, of course, ad valorem taxes, almost 78.5 million. This is for just general fund. At this point, I just have the estimate of what we actually had in the budget. There's some timing issues, depends on when people pay the next few months, if it's delinquent or not. So, but we'll keep updating that. I'm sorry.
What percentage collection is that based on estimate?
We'll use a 97.
97. Okay.
And then sales and use tax. So we estimated 26 million for this year. We're looking to come in about 27.9 million. It's about 1.9 million more. And you know, we look at that closely each year. It continues to increase year after year there. I usually don't pull this one on here, but I just thought it was interesting. So the alcoholic beverage tax, it was consistent, and then over the last couple years, it's ramped up each year over the last couple. So we estimated 750 just based on trends, and it looks like we're going to come almost to $1 million there. So I think that, you know, with the sales tax is, you know, could be related to economic development activity, you know, more restaurants, more places that people gather, you know, that may be causing those increases.
I think so. I believe that's right.
And then fines and fees revenues, so that's a conglomeration of all the fines and fees that all of our offices are collecting and that are county-kept funds. You know, they collect a lot that goes to the state or other entities. And we're right over there. We're estimating to not come too much over 400,000 more than we estimated. The Jack Harwell Detention Center inmate housing, you'll see that difference there of 2.5. The reason for that is due to the timing of when the entities pay us as the operator. So if it's just, you know, 1 month, you know, if it's the last day of the month, rather the first day, when we put together the operator request for our revenue to come back, it's based on those quarter ends or those month ends. So we had some timing difference in the past year that threw some of the prior years into this current year. And so that's why that's 7 million there. In the end, if you took all the years together and looked at them, we're still, you know, it's pretty steady, but it's just the timing of it there. So I just wanted to point it out because it does create some fluctuations there.
Those are under our federal contract.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. For the most part, yes.
For inmates, housing inmates for the feds, and of course, our expenditures are higher.
Correct.
Because, and so that would be in our, on the prior page on that.
On the,
total
yes,
expenses.
on the expenditure side.
Put it there, yeah, okay.
And then I just lumped in all other revenues. There's many lines. And again, we're coming about 400,000 more than we originally estimated. And so then you'll see there's about a 5 million over what we overestimate, over collecting what we estimated there for the year. And then that information that comes as we're estimating, of course, we'll incorporate that into what we estimate for next year. And just, again, try to estimate as close as we can to what we think we're going to receive. The next page, I know I always point this out, but again, going back to sales tax, our 2023 estimate, you'll see there is right up, under 28 million. Consistently the last 2 years, the percentage along the bottom, it shows the percentage year after year. 18%, 11%, it's back down to 7%, but still 7% is a large increase year after year.
That's estimated for year to date. It's
correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And so I always like to point this out because I think as this grows, like right now, based on that estimate, it's about 21.5% of your total revenues. So I think as that grows, it lessens that burden on the tax, on the ad valorem tax side.
Right, on the ad valorem side. Correct.
And then again, it correlates to economic development, so it gives y'all some benchmarks, in these decisions that you're making on that side of things. So on the next page, I just wanted to then go to expenditures and highlight a few categories. So personnel, that's all salaries, elected officials, benefits, taxes. So we're looking right now to come about 3.6 under budget for that category. Indigent defense is another large piece of our budget. That was growing year after year, and then there was the stall with COVID. And so we've seen that increase each year since. It looks like we will come under budget. That one is a little bit hard to tell. It depends on the types of cases that come up during the summer. But we're coming under budget about 700,000. I think though next year we'll probably be spending that 700 that we came under budget this year for sure. Supplies and equipment. I kind of pulled together everything that was tangible in our budget: supplies, equipment, capital outlay, and it's based on the total amount of the budget. 200,000 under budget spread across the whole general fund budget isn't too much. And that's why I put it on there. So I thought as far as items that offices are using, both disposable and equipment and pieces of, office furniture and things that they're using over the years, the budget seems to be pretty close to what it needs to be. So I thought that was interesting. And then the countywide road and bridge, this year it looks like we will probably come in about 2 million under. And that is, because that department is where we're housing the infrastructure that we were going to outsource, professional services. There was some other projects, Robinson and Mart. There was some timing differences of that. And so we may end up, it just depends on how fast those projects ramp up, but just based on the trends now, looked like we were going to come under budget there. So,
okay.
And we'll work on that this summer to make sure that, what we're budgeting there is what we anticipate getting to during the year.
That's about 6.5 under budget.
Yeah, so about 8, and those were just the highlights. So in total, again, estimates coming about 8.2 under. And that is when you look at the total expenditures, it's about 5.8%. So large amount, but when you look at it as a percentage, coming within 6% of what we budget and spend, can seem reasonable. So for general fund in total, everything is looking good right now. There are no concerns. We have a couple lines that we're watching. I know Heather mentioned the line in her office that we've been watching the last few months, just because the ramped up activity in her office. But even when there's a few that we're watching, and even if those go over budget, contingencies looks good. We still have over 750,000 in contingencies for the year. There's other line items that we could move from, so no concerns in any way for the budget this year.
A quick question on the countywide road and bridge, and it might be a Zane question, because I know the Trading Post culvert project is probably included in that actual. Any of the expenditures associated with Chapel Road, just off of your memory? Because I don't want to
Chapel
give you
is-
engineering.
And I'll actually
questions.
touch on this here in a little bit. Chapel Road is the budget now for that is in a bond fund. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
And there's no reason some of these can't be in a bond fund, but at the time we
Right.
chose to use this way of budgeting for it.
Okay.
So then, to move away from general fund, I just wanted to touch real quick on the two other funds that collect ad valorem taxes. The fund on the top, the debt service fund, you know, that rate, that tax rate, the revenues are based on exactly what we know our debt service is. So there's no questions or, you know, there's nothing really there to do to wonder if how we're gonna do there. And you'll see that we estimate an ending fund balance of 1.8 million. So that's about 30% of what our debt service, our annual debt service is right now. And then the permanent improvement fund on the bottom of the page is our ad valorem funded permanent improvement fund. Consistently, we've been using this fund for more the keeping up the buildings. What does TJ present to us at the beginning of the year? You know, those ongoing projects that just keep our buildings up to par. And then anything that's new has been coming up. We've been using bond funds for those items. But there's no reason that you couldn't use this fund for projects like that as well. And you'll see there, just based on what activity looks like right now, far right column on the very bottom will end about with 3.8 million in that fund. And of
So
course,
the
that'll-
estimated revenues are based on the calculation of the tax rate and
Yes, sir.
the amount of value that's allocated towards permanent improvement fund.
What we've been doing is, and it's, y'all have been agreeable to it, and it's kept it going, is backing into the rate to get about $1 million of tax revenue into this fund each year.
Okay. So that's discretionary then? I mean,
So
we-
yes, so you can alter that piece of the
Yeah,
M and O rate.
that's right. Okay, thank you.
Of course. And then we just look at the permanent improvement funds that are associated with our bond issuances. So the information on this page is for the 2019, 2021, and 2022 bond issues. The 2020, I skipped because that is for the zoo, so I don't have that in here at all. But with those three last bonds, we have about 38 million in fund balance as of today or yesterday. And then you'll see there the pending projects that you all have approved and we have budgeted. So road projects, that specifically is Chapel and Panther Branch. And again, those numbers will come probably over, you know, that budget's been there a while, so I know we may come over that amount. And then the tower project, we have about 500,000 currently budgeted there. The downtown jail project, that amount is what you approved as far as the contract for Brinkley Sargent. So of course, there are a lot more costs to come there, but that is what has been approved and what has been agreed to at this time. And then there's another small amount for building improvements. Yes, sir.
The tower project, will that eventually go away?
The project.
Yes, sir.
It'll be built out, we're getting close, right?
Yes, sir. They've got the foundations poured for the tower at Precinct 3. And
Yeah.
I think they have all the
And
stuff.
noted that the state is building that tower.
Oh, yes.
Right.
So all we're having to do is outfit it with
Tennis.
But eventually that number will zero out?
Correct. So the part that's in this fund is considered a capital project. It's something that we're going to depreciate over its life. And so as soon as we determine, hey, we're going to wrap this up, we can close it out, it's no longer construction in progress, you'll see just the normal maintenance costs, and
Right.
those are in the maintenance of equipment department.
Right.
So
Okay.
And quickly, if I could, Dustin, just make a note that on the tower project, probably in the next meeting or two, have another update report on that. And then also take in consideration, any revenues that can be created by having those towers and selling space on them, or, I don't know if even that's an option or not.
And Judge, we typically have not done that. I know Wayne, the last one was brought forward probably back in about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I know at that time, the court had a discussion and did not want to lease any of that tower space, but I think that's something that is up for discussion. I guess the one thing that could affect that is they were engineered to a certain load level, so that's something we would have to take into account as
Okay.
well.
Well, so we'll have a chance, and to get Frank back, and maybe as part of the report, Frank and Ken and you and whoever all is involved in it, talk about it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And then just working your way down to the very bottom green line, so that's what is sitting there, that we have not budgeted anything yet, that you haven't made a formal action. So 23 million, and of course, we know the downtown jail project, we will need those funds for that. So,
Yes.
and of course, if there's any other things that come up before that time, those funds are available for
Well, and,
other uses.
I think when we sold some of those bonds, we put a pretty broad language in it on what all it can be, money can be spent for, and we have roofing projects that were mentioned, and I think HVAC, but, and we have a lot of that in front of us,
Yes.
on top of the downtown jail renovation, or conversion. Gotta come up with a name for that, so.
Additional spending.
Real quick, before you turn that page, on road projects, you mentioned Chapel Road and what was?
Panther Branch was the last one that was approved. The majority of it's Chapel, though, that's in that budget line.
Okay.
All right. So then, I wanted to move over to the venue project and just give you an update there. It hasn't been that long since we looked at it, but wanted to keep you in the loop there. So I know there's a lot of numbers on that page, but the top section, the main schedule, those are actual numbers. So of course, they go just through the month of April 2023. But you can see, if you just take those first 7 months of this year and, move across to the left, each of those months is the highest month that we've had over those last 5 years. So good signs there. And then the bottom of the page takes those 7 months and compares it to the same 7 months in each of those years. So you'll see there that 8.5% different than above last year. And of course, you can see the 75% increase last year. So weird outlier years the last few years, but I think it looks like we're on track to continue the increase in taxes.
New hotel rooms coming online too.
Yes.
And I know there's some significant conventions and those things that are waiting to have enough rooms before they book into Waco and McLennan County. And so that could make it, it's all positive for this particular account. Even if the room rates go down, that additional rooms, it's thought that the additional rooms that will be available will make up for any modification because of supply, demand, or competitive nature that would adjust those rates. We'd still end up being above.
Gotcha. Then the next page, of course, there's the vehicle rental taxes in addition, and it's getting to where it is a substantial part of the revenue that flows into those funds. So, it had dropped. It went in 2022. You can see it increased over 100,000 last year, and then this year, just based on the estimate, it seems we're going to stay right steady with what it was last year. So, not a substantial change there, but I think it staying constant is a good sign as well.
Maybe part of that's because they can't find them to rent.
Heck, yes. There's a limit there. The next chart, this shows the first 7 months of this fiscal year that we know, that we have actual numbers for. And it just compares the same month to those last 5 years. And I did this because I think it's interesting to see that for the most part, each month for 5 years, I wish I should have drawn like a line to connect them, but the line the curve would be similar each month moving forward. So your total amount for the month may be much less or much more, but you still have these same variations from month to month. And I think that's really important to see that there is some sort of cycle in our area on when the hotels are at their peak and not. And that if we can track that and, see that we can follow this flow, it'll be really easier, to estimate what we have coming in future months, future years. So I thought that was a good sign that there is some consistent patterns there. And then this just is the same thing, but it just adds in the other 5 months, the last 5 months of the year with our estimate in it. And currently I have a 5% estimate over last year. And I think that's a conservative number at this point, so. Again, this one, I know it's a lot of numbers up there, but this is just, I kind of walked forward what I think this fiscal year is gonna look like at the end. So, just the first line is hotel occupancy tax revenue. So estimates for May through September. So estimating 2.7 million for the year. The same with vehicle rental, some estimates put in there, coming to 538,000. I've backed off if you took our debt service requirements and spread them over a year, what that would be. And for our fiscal year, the very bottom right side, we would have a surplus over debt service of about 1.4 million. When we get to the end of the calendar year, December, that is when we calculate this same thing, and that's when we disperse funds to the city and the ISD. So again, this is on the fiscal year, so that always, looks a little different depending on what we're looking at. And then one more thing for the venue project. This is just a walk forward of the two funds. And so the top piece is, there's two. There's the debt service side and then the construction fund. So the debt service fund, you'll see there at the beginning of this fiscal year, we started with 2.8 million. That's an audited, set in stone number. It has the estimates, actual and estimates for all of the taxes, as well as the debt service payments, and the transfer that was made for the excess funds for the year in February. And so I'm estimating that we'll come to an ending fund balance September 30th of 2.9 million. And then the construction side, same thing. So started with 1.3 million. We transferred the excess funds to this fund from debt service. We've had construction expenditures this year of 1.2 million, that being the Paul Tyson area. We made our payments to the city and the ISD, and so, again, estimating to end the year at about 760,000.
Question? What is our end time on payments to City of Waco and WISD? When does that
So
cease?
the agreement states that we're to look at a calendar year, and then in February, following February, we calculate this overage, and then we will give them each 25% of that amount. We retain the other 50. So December 2023, we'll roll around, we'll get the actual numbers, and then in February, we'll check everything and then disperse those funds.
For perpetuity?
No, until we pay off the.
That's what I'm saying, yeah,
Yes.
until, what is there an estimated payoff time?
Yes, so if you look at estimates and you keep on that 25% schedule, I don't have it in this slideshow, but I have it. I know we've looked at it here and there, but I can get it over to you. And we know exactly what we owe to each entity as
Right.
well, so.
Yeah, one fund is just a couple of years and it'll be paid off, and the other one's a little longer because there's a larger amount. Right. Unless we want to do something different, but it's 0% interest. And our agreement is that a certain percentage would be assigned to that, and the other money would be left in our reserve to continue. We can't start on a new project while this is per our agreement, but we can continue to upgrade the additional project that we have, and, we've gone back and made some changes to.
Current projects?
Yeah.
So we can't do any new projects until
We
they're
can't
paid
do-
off?
That's right, we can't do it, the new facility that's planned, that, they have to be paid off before we can start allocating funds to that. So.
It's 0% with no prepayment.
That's right, no
penalty.
prepayment penalty, so we're looking at, there may be a point in time we want to go ahead and pay that off and where we can move on, because there'll be money available. Once there's significant money available to start another project, and then it depends on the phases of the new project, what would be first. In other words, it might just be land preparation, and its amount that's small enough that we can start allocating money to it. So, I'm gonna propose something.
Well, it would be good to have a fund available to continue to make improvements out there because we've done so much and it looks so good and.
Yeah, and see, whether it's one fund is totally dedicated to the venue area, it can't be like over to the Coliseum, but we continue to make, contributions to, fixed assets, which are ours, because we own everything, at the 100,000 or so that we, do, so that'll be separate, but, the venue project itself, there, at some point in time, we may want to modify that agreement if there's enough funding there to start something else.
Okay, good idea. Thank you. Thank you.
And then just one other thing real quickly, we've looked at this, something similar to this each year, but just walking forward, the fund balance, the inflows and outflows and the fund balance of the proprietary funds, the self-insured funds, insurance funds each year. And you'll see, I just have it as of today, so you'll see the fund balance in the far green column. However, I won't go any further on that. We will be receiving some information from Randy McGraw, I believe, next Tuesday. And there's been a change in the claims cost and all the variables there. And again, I'll let him speak on that. But even though right now it looks like it's keeping steady, we'll see a drop in that fund balance before this year is out. So he'll give us his thoughts and his recommendations on that.
Okay. Does that conclude your report?
It does.
I've got a question. I know when we have, we sell bonds and we deposit those funds into our, specific account for that fund. We have to be sure that we're, complying with the arbitrage rules.
Yes.
And, in the past, that hadn't been an issue because we didn't earn anything on cash. But now, the return on your cash is considerably higher, especially on short-term investment. And so how do you, at what point, how do you calculate each one of those? Each bond sale has a different rate at whatever the market rate was at the time. So how do we allocate those additional funds to that to make sure we don't violate any arbitrage rules?
So, when you approve a project, capital purchase out of these funds, we set up a budget with kind of, the first in bond funds that we're sitting in so that we're eating at it, a little at a time and using the oldest funds first. I believe that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
And so if we budgeted for something like, let's say Chapel Road, that budgeted line has been sitting there for some time now. If we're not going to spend that quickly, and we have other projects that are ramping up quickly, we could budget that in one of the newer funds and do something more current in those older funds that have been sitting, just so that we're not sitting on the money.
So it's a kind of shuffling reallocation.
If we need to change the budget, yes.
Okay.
As long as they should all fit in the uses of the funds for each bond.
So if you buy a tax-free bond that we sell right now, the rate is about, just grabbing a number, I think he said 3.7 or something. And that's tax-free to the owner of the bond. And then we could turn around, fund that, and actually put it in an account that would earn 5%.
That's where you gotta watch that though.
Well, that's where she's gotta watch it.
Yeah, that's where you've gotta watch the
Yeah.
arbitrage part of it. That's what Judge is asking. So we're spending that money somewhere.
Yes. And so that's where our goal is to spend those oldest funds first.
Yeah.
Because when.
The lowest
department-
interest
Yes.
that we are paying first, so that we don't get too much interest income.
So I think you're gonna see a significant increase in, income from cash or unassigned fund balance and all cash help, this coming year than we've seen in the past 10 years. So, on the positive side.
Yes.
And,
There's also more eyes out there looking at it also too.
yeah,
So there's more risk in
right,
keeping it.
yeah.
And we'll make sure, we're in contact with our financial advisor, Mark McCliney, and, make sure he's seeing the same things we are. We also use a company called Amtech to help with our arbitrage.
Okay.
And so we're in contact with them as well. And just keep a close eye on it.
How much do our deposit accounts, how much do they float? How much does the rate, go up? Does that make,
Just like in our main, like pooled cash account.
yeah, uh-huh.
I couldn't answer that off the top of my head today, but we can.
And that may be, that's a bill.
Bill question.
a bill question more.
And what, for security purposes and a lot of rate risk and all those other things, pretty much use a ladder of putting different investments in different places, different rates, and then different terms, anywhere from short-term money market to locking down 3-4 year rates. And so, he's got to look at what we normally keep as our unassigned balance rolling from year to year. And that's increased because of set the policy of having about a third of our unassigned fund balance, a third of our budget there. So we've got more to invest, but it might be good that we get a breakdown and bring it to court. He does that I think, a couple of months ago, but and kind of look at those things and talk about rates and those things. It's pretty interesting right now, for sure. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to approve Francis' report for recording purposes?
So move.
Okay.
Motion made, second. Any other discussion? No discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, pass. All right, Dustin.
All right, moving on to item E, grants. E1 is our ARPA discussion. We just added this to the agenda in case there was anything the court would like to discuss today.
Move on.
I think for right now, since we have a meeting next week, we can spend more time on it then.
All right, moving on to item F. F1 is authorization of commercial contract amendment for sale of county real property. This is the old Justice of the Peace Precinct 4 building at 307 South Madison in McGregor. Last court session, we approved a contract for the sale of this property for $140,000. Building was inspected last week, and the inspector indicated that the roof needed to be replaced. There's a quote to replace the roof for right at $11,800. And this is an amendment requesting to reduce the contract price by $6,000. So this would be a sales price of $134,000. This seems reasonable. Visited with Ken and TJ. Seems reasonable to us, and recommended it for approval.
Any questions?
The inspector was hired by the buyer, correct?
Yes,
And the
that's
inspector
correct.
says it needs a new roof.
But
Did TJ concur with that? Has he looked at the roof? Or have we had somebody besides one side look at the roof to know that that's a legitimate?
We have photos of it. The TAC adjusters were in town that day, and they did go by to look at it. It was old damage to the roof, so we looked at being able to group it into that last storm where it would have been one deductible, but it did have older damage on it. I can't speak for TJ if he saw it, but I did see the pictures. It looks pretty rough, and I think it does need a new roof. And when Mr. Pascal set the proposed listing price, he just assumed that the roof had a general useful life left. So I believe in his review as well agrees that I think that this is a reasonable approach.
any other questions? I would make a motion, we accept this offer.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
F2 is regarding RFQ 23-012, medical and health services for jails and detention centers. F2A is authorization of recommendation, and then after that, F2B is authorization of release of request for proposal to best qualified respondents from the request for qualifications evaluations. Ken.
Thought I'd come around here since
Okay.
it's a little bit complicated. As you may recall, we are doing this solicitation in two parts. We issued a request for qualifications. We received responses back from Advanced Correctional Healthcare Turnkey Health Clinics, Armor Health of McLennan County, R&D Correct Med. And again, our selection of folks to receive the RFP are based on our recommendation from this RFQ. We had 4 people evaluate these requests for qualifications responses. Myself, Dustin, Jay out at the Highway 6 jail, and Cinnamon. Jay is the director of nurses out at the jail. In the scoring the proposals, we had average scores as follows. Advanced Correctional Healthcare at 80.75, Turnkey Health Clinics at 88.5, Armor Health of McLennan County at 82.75, and R&D Correct Med at 76.5. We recommend that we release the request for proposal to Advanced Correctional Health, Turnkey Health Clinics, and Armor Health. These 3 companies scored 80 or above in the evaluations. 3 of the 4 evaluators scored R&D Correct Med with lowest scores with that average of 76.5. We believe they do not meet the criteria set forth in the RFQ and therefore are not qualified to proceed forward with the RFP. The principals in this response are both previous employees of Core Health and provided excellent medical service for our jail as Core Health employees, but they were not a company providing all the services requested and do not provide any history with any other jail or detention center facilities. That is, they have never actually managed a jail medical program at any correctional facility. In addition, they failed to identify key personnel who would be involved in providing care. We ran this by Mike, and he concurred that R&D Correct Med does not qualify to advance to the submission of the proposals. With all that being said, after the review of the responses, we requesting allowance from the court to issue the RFP to the companies that we recommend.
I have one question.
Yes,
And I take your recommendation with great care and respect. It seems they are our only local company, R&D Correct Med.
Let me say this.
Okay.
The company is formed basically to respond to this request for qualifications. They weren't a company before.
That a bad
And they
thing?
haven't acted as a
Yes.
company.
Oh, this
They don't have any history. They're a startup, and they're undetermined on capital position, anything else. And I don't think we want to sign up. And I wasn't in the scoring deal, but after listening, that we would want to sign up with a company that didn't have any history or any of that money.
We more or less initiated a program where we were going to hire a company to provide all the services that we needed.
Right.
Before, we had a doctor. I mean, I understand. We had a doctor, and he was kind of taking care of the medical needs, but we're talking about providing a psychiatrist, any behavioral health needs that we need. And again, we're looking for a company that has had history in providing that. Advanced Correctional Healthcare is in like 300 facilities. Turnkey is in 100. I forgot the number of Armored Health, but these 3 companies are large individual companies that are providing health care in other correctional facilities. And I think that's what we're actually looking for when we did the request for qualifications. I'm not saying anything bad about Correct Med.
Just saying it's new.
They're new and have no history in other correctional facilities.
Do these other companies, because it's Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Florida, do they have some type of facility anywhere in Texas? Any kind of
Turnkey Health
headquarters?
facilities, of health clinics is in 15 correctional facilities in Texas. I'm sorry, I don't want to get confused. I think Armored Health Care is in Hill County, I believe. Advanced Health Care, I believe, is in Temple, Bell County.
I mean, they operate in facilities in those areas?
Yes.
They don't have any type of headquarters in the state of Texas? They don't have any type of like a home, a office, a satellite office in Texas or anything?
Only in the individual facilities. I mean, they
Okay.
don't have a,
Okay.
you know, a satellite office here.
Our current provider is Core Health, is that correct?
That's correct.
And they decided they're moving, they're moving on?
They're moving on.
Because I know it's been pretty good and they provided everything that we wanted. Is that, I mean?
Well, there was,
I mean,
I won't go too far, but I think there was a lot of discussions about maybe services that they weren't providing.
okay.
According to what you're saying here, 3 of these 4 companies, the ones you recommended, do all provide all of the services that we requested and need. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back and try to recall some things. Before Core Health, before the organization that we have now, like you said, we had our own physician, and there was a whole different staffing mechanism in place. The reason we went to this model was because of the proposal that we got from the current provider that is going away. And is that the best model to keep doing moving forward? Or was there something so significantly wrong with how we were doing it before? Like, is there a reason that we sticking to this model? Because the only reason we went to it was because the staff at the jail had contacted Core Health and decided to move forward with that model. But is there a significant reason why we keep that model?
I'm probably not the best expert in answering that. I would just say that they're providing more services than we had with the individual doctor. I mean, we were having to hire those services, contract those services, or hire those services individually outside of, under one umbrella. In this way, we have it all under one umbrella. And I always liked using the words "one throat to choke." I mean, we have an organization we can contract and said, this is not working well, please fix it.
And like
Well,
I
I
said,
think
I have the greatest respect for the process that you're saying move forward with. I think I'm gonna watch it, because I know we got a lot of things coming online, like the crisis hub. We have some things now in place that were not in place back then. And so I'm just gonna see, but I know there's a benefit in not having to get it à la carte. I do know that.
Well, I'll just share this too. You know, we were having trouble getting the behavioral health folks that we needed out of MHMR. But they came to us, they raised their
rate?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've been able now to supply those. But when I was actually writing the RFP part, the RFP part for this, I was putting in for this, whatever organization this is, to supply those. I have since gone back and just made that an alternate where we probably will not need that because MHMR has been able to come up and now start supplying those when they were having trouble supplying it at the salaries they were offering before. So just that's a little tidbit, of some of the moving targets that we continue to try to hit.
So, Dustin, what language needs to be, if someone was to choose to make a motion, what would it need to, how would it need to be
So
stated?
it would be to accept the recommendation of the purchasing department and then to move forward with the release of the request for proposals to those identified as the best qualified respondents.
Okay. All right,
That would be my motion, Judge.
okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to say if this is approved, then I will release the RFP on Thursday.
Okay. That's good. All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. No other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass. Thank you.
F3 is regarding the amendment to the guaranteed maintenance agreement with A&A Technology Group, authorization of invoice for extension of agreement with telecommunications equipment, My Telephone System. John?
Good morning again.
Morning.
The reason that this is on the agenda for this meeting is that our current agreement expires on the 31st of May, and this was with A&A Technology Group. You'll see on there that we are looking to extend it for 1 year. Typically, we would sign a 3-year agreement, but this is a vendor that we would like to take a look at, see how they perform over this year, and then again, decide if we want to go forward with them past the year. Excuse me. As you can see, it's $43,385.67 for the year. That represents $7,125.97 increase over last year's maintenance. And this is for phones, all the server equipment, the licensing for our MyTel phone system. And this has increased. One of the reasons it's increased is that we have the MyCoLab voicemail system that will be put into service on Thursday, June 1st. With that, I would take any questions.
All right, any questions? All right, what's the pleasure of the court?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day, sir.
F4 is authorization of McLennan County credit card purchase. These are typically included on the consent agenda, but this was a timely one that needed to be included on this agenda. It's for JP Precinct 3 in the amount of $149.95, and it is to purchase a court calendar docket software, and I believe it's actually just a renewal of an existing software that they are currently using.
All right. I make a motion we approve.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
All right, and Judge, that should have covered all the action items.
Okay. All right, is there anything else to come before the court? If not, 11:44, we stand adjourned.
Recording stopped.